Welcome back everybody, we're rating some more entitled people today, and it's going to be a wonderful time and I hope you're excited. The first story we're going to read today is called My Aunt Stole My Inheritance, and then Karma Struck and Her Life Fell Apart. I'm sorry if anything's misspelled, I have horrific dyslexia. My aunt was one of two kids that my grandparents had. My mother was the polar opposite to my aunt. She worked from the age of 12 in my grandfather's shop, never asked for anything, and eventually started her own business. My aunt, on the other hand, never held down a job until the age of 26, was constantly stealing from her parents and was constantly in trouble. Despite this though, my aunt was spoilt by my grandmother, and so were her kids. She had 3 kids from 3 different men, and her first husband was not one of them, if you know what I mean. Didn't matter what my aunt did or her kids did, my grandmother would always jump to their defense. She never had time for my mum and her kids, unless it was to get something from us. The only reason my mum would even visit her is because she loved my grandfather. My grandfather passed away in 2004, and a few months after, my nan decided to write up a new will. My mother and my aunt were both present for it when she signed it, so they knew what was in it. It made it so when she passed away, her home would be sold and the money would be split 25% each to my mum and my aunt, and the remaining 50% would go evenly to the grandkids. At the time, the home was worth more than £500,000, so it would be a nice inheritance, but nothing life-changing. In 2010, my mum died after an accident and did not have a current will in place. Oh, I'm so sorry, OP. As she no longer had her business and was renting a house, she didn't have anything of much monetary value. The only thing that she was concerned about was what would be done at her funeral should she have passed away, but she had told me everything she wanted. The music, the flowers, the coffin colour, and even what people were to wear at the funeral. She wanted people to wear bright, warm colours. So when she passed, my aunt and nan took over all the arrangements and tried to undo all the things that I'd told them. The songs were going to be songs I knew that my mum didn't like. The flowers were all the wrong colours and they picked a hideous coffin. With the help of my siblings, we were able to change a few of the things back to what they were supposed to be, but the coffin couldn't be changed for some reason, and my nan refused to let people come quote-unquote dressed as clowns, so it was all black. It was so frustrating. After the funeral, my nan had her will changed. My siblings and I were told by our aunt that she didn't have any involvement with the writing of the will, and our nan told us that she changed it so that mum's share would go to her kids instead. All good, we thought. After my mum passed away, my nan just stopped talking about my mum. At first we thought it was because she was still recovering from losing her daughter, but even 5 years after mum passed, she still wouldn't really talk about her. Even if you brought up a story about mum, nan would very obviously try to change the subject, usually about how hard my aunt and her crappy kids had it, and if you went to talk to her about your own problem, she'd somehow bring it back to my aunt. I'd suffered a mental breakdown after my mum's death, so you can imagine how much it hurt to hear, well, so-and-so had it so much worse. In 2016, my nan passed away. She'd written down what she wanted to be done for her funeral, and it was basically all the stuff that she'd picked out for my mum's, even the music to be played. I don't know why she tried to have a dress rehearsal funeral using my mum as the stand-in, but it was obvious that that was what she was doing. So after a couple of months, our siblings and I were waiting to hear about the will reading, and my aunt kept on telling me, oh, it'll be another month before we can do the reading. I didn't mind, I wasn't fussed about the money to be honest, but my oldest brother was hoping to use the money to pay for a honeymoon for him and his fiancée, and my younger brother was about to start uni, so it would be a hell of a help. Eventually, my dad bumped into the solicitor that my grandmother had used to deal with her will and asked what was going on. The solicitor let slip that the will had already been read and that it left everything to my aunt. When my dad questioned this, the solicitor told him that my aunt had been present when the will was written, despite promising that she had nothing to do with it. When confronted, my aunt initially tried to deny, but eventually admitted to lying to all of us. She showed us the will and it confirmed what we already knew. The house and all of its contents were now my aunt's. This included my granddad's war medals. He fought in the Second World War. When I told her that he'd promised them to me before he died, she said, well, unless you have it in writing, you'll have nothing in this house. Anyway, I already gave them to Clive. My heart sank. Clive, not his real name of course, was her eldest son, and the dictionary definition of a mess up. He'd been in and out of prison for stealing and dealing drugs. I knew that the moment that prick had gotten his hands on my granddad's medals, they would have been sold off. We looked into taking her to court over the will, but everybody we spoke to said that we probably wouldn't get anything out of it. She immediately put the house up for sale at close to £750,000. She'd pissed off too many people in our town, so she was going to sell the house and move closer to her daughter, who lives in a big city. An offer was made on the house and she put down a deposit on a house near the big city, and I thought that was that. Well, here's where the karma comes into play. The people who wanted my nan's house had a survey done to the house to see if there were any issues, and oh boy were there. It turns out the land that the house was built on was way too soft for the type of house, and it was sinking. It sunk about 2 centimeters in the 40 plus years that my nan and granddad had lived there, but the sinking was accelerating by 1 centimeter per year. This meant that within the next 3 years the house would need some serious work or be knocked down. The new value value of the house, £60,000. The buyers immediately pulled out, having not even put down a deposit. She couldn't buy her new house, but still had to pay the deposit on it. And while this was happening, she let Clive move in with her into the house that she rented from the council. He wasn't allowed to live in any of the council houses because he'd trashed every single one that had ever been given. Somebody reported this and she was kicked out of her home. She was forced to move into my nan's old home as she couldn't live anywhere else. So there she is, living in a crumbling house with her craphead son and her partner. She was stuck there for 2 years. Every time I saw her, she'd try and start talking to me, and I'd just ignore her and walk off. One time as I was walking away, she screamed, "Your mother deserved to die for having a you-know-what like you," in the middle of a busy street. Somebody reported her to the police, and she had an official warning from them, and was also ridiculed on Facebook. Every time I saw her after that, she looked more and more miserable. Eventually, she sold the house for something like 85 grand, and then moved in with her daughter in the big city. I lost contact with her and her kids after that. I thought karma had been issued. Oh, but karma still wasn't done with her. I bumped into one of her former friends, and she told me what happened after she left our town. She moved into her daughter's home, let's call her Sue, but they only had a 3-bedroom house and 3 kids. My aunt and her partner had to live in the smallest room in the house while my aunt looked for a job and a home to rent. Even with the £85,000, she couldn't afford a home anywhere. After about a month, my aunt's partner ran off after emptying her account. She was stranded in Sue's house, not contributing to anything because all the money she makes goes into bingo. Eventually, Sue and my aunt get into a screaming match, and my aunt said something along the lines of, "I should have aborted you." Sue immediately kicked her out of her house. So again, there's my aunt in a city where she knows nobody, no money, no home, and the last bridge she had is a smouldering wreck. Last anybody has heard, she was living in a caravan in the roughest part of the city, and she can no longer work because she's suffering early onset arthritis and can no longer move her hands. I know I shouldn't get joy out of something like this happening to another person, but it does bring me some peace as to what happened. Wow, okay. That's so wild. Yeah, the top comment, karma's a biatch, but so is your aunt. So, yeah, wow, that's so unbelievable how everything just sort of fell apart. We do have an update here, so I'm going to read that. My aunt stole my inheritance, then karma struck and her life fell apart. Update. Hello, around a year ago, I told you all about my aunt stealing my and my siblings' inheritance, and I thought I'd make a quick update, but I wanted to answer and correct a few things first. Number 1, I have tried to find my grandfather's war medals, but because I don't have his service number or his death certificate, I can't even get access to his records. After I found out that my cousin had taken and sold the medals, I did search local stores and Facebook groups looking for info, but no luck. I know he hadn't won any major medals. He was a mechanic and a driver in the Royal Army, so thankfully had a rather uneventful war, so it would have just been the campaign and service medals. Number 2, somebody was asking for specifics about the signing of the will, pointing out that my aunt couldn't have been a witness to the signing of the will due to laws preventing it. I don't know the full specifics of what her and my nan had done, but her solicitor did let slip that my aunt had known what was in the will before it was even written. I just don't know the full details. I'm ignorant when it comes to solicitors and the such, and it was my elder sister who read the will in full and relayed it to the rest of us. We did ask if there was any way that we could fight it, but everybody we talked to said there wasn't any case. Sorry if that was confusing. I have seen a few comments on Reddit and on YouTube videos. Super weird seeing in the wild, by the way, using she and her to describe me. Well, I guess that's why now people on here give their age and gender at the start of their stories, because I'm a man, 32 male, in case you were wondering. I wasn't annoyed or upset about it. I thought it was funny. Somebody asked what a caravan is. They're what we call travel trailers in the UK. Think of like a fiberglass aluminium box on wheels. People in the UK use them for short holidays, and they're not fun to live in for an extended period of time. I have experience of this and it sucked. Anyway, onto the update. So when I last left off, my aunt had been abandoned in a big city and stuck in a caravan with crippling arthritis. Well, a few weeks after my first post, I got news that she somehow found a new boyfriend. How, I don't know, because my aunt had the look and the build of an obese pug, and that was when she was in her 30s, so what she looks like now in her mid-60s doesn't bear thinking about. Well, her and her new boy toy. I think I just threw up a little. Decided to move to a seaside town and start a new life. Well, you can guess what happened. The boy toy must have gotten sick of her, or found out that she had no money, so abandoned her. During an argument with her landlord, she suffered a heart attack, and while in hospital she suffered another. She has recovered, but was even more disabled than she was before. She's been given a home by her local council, but it's okay guys, because Clive has come to live with her. Oh my god, Clive, the mess up who sold my grandfather's medals and lost my aunt her home. The man is a walking episode of Jeremy Kyle. After my aunt left my hometown, things started to look up for Clive. Somebody took pity on him and gave him a job as a labourer, and for a few months he was doing well, looking clean and well despite everything that had happened. I was so glad he was getting his life back on track. Well, it turns out not. He was given a work van to go from job to job, and one day came to work with a black eye and no van. He told everybody that he'd been carjacked and the van was stolen. Sadly, for Clive, they found the van, and a very confused man wondering why the police were arresting him. After questioning and a text exchange, they found out that Clive had sold the van to the man and gave himself a black eye to make it look like a theft. Clive was arrested. He was massively lucky because his boss didn't press charges. The boss told me later that he only did it out of respect for my grandfather, and all the police did was fine him for wasting police time. After burning through all the money that he had. He was again homeless. His only lifeline was his younger brother. Let's call him Colin. Colin was in the armed forces and a pretty high rank from what I've heard. Colin was away from home most of the time on deployment, but was able to buy a nice home in our town. He let Clive in his house on the agreement that he pay part of the mortgage. You know where this is going? He stopped paying, stopped maintaining the house, and treated it like a drugs den. Colin asked him to leave, but Clive used squatters' rights to prevent removal. Because Colin was overseas, he couldn't come back and sort it out and kick him out in person, and had nobody in the area to wait for Clive to leave and change the locks behind him. So Clive lived in the house for 6 months. That was until a pissed off father broke in and beat the crap out of Clive. You see, the father had found out that Clive, who is 41 by the way, had been sexting and selling weed to a 13-year-old girl. Oh my god. After that, Clive abandoned the house and ran off to mummy. From what I've heard, Colin had stripped the house and was selling it to move closer to his base. We found most of this out from my aunt's daughter Sue, the one who kicked my aunt out. You see, my brother was on holiday in Turkey and just so happened to be in the hotel room next to Sue. She was very apologetic to my brother and thought we might like to know what had happened. She seemed to have a nice life and family and no longer lives in the house that she shared with her mum. I am generally happy for her, although I don't think I'll try to mend our relationship. Sue had said some spiteful things to me in particular and had never reached out to apologise. I might still feel a bit bitter for that. As for my aunt, I don't know how to feel. I do hope she gets better and grows enough of a spine to kick Clive out, as it's only going to lead her to more trouble. In some ways, I do wish I could rebuild a relationship with her. She is the last living link to my grandfather and grandmother, as well as my mother's only living sibling, but I know I could never trust her, never not see that face and the spitefulness that she had for me and my family, that she chose money, or what she thought was money, over us, and I don't think I can forgive that, but I'm not going to go out of my way to do her more harm. I'm just happy that I'm in a better place now. Wow, what a roller coaster that was to read. Yeah, you for sure have the right attitude, OP. And this comment, the man is a walking episode of Jeremy Kyle. That's one of the best descriptions of somebody I've ever heard. I can certainly think of a few people who would fit that. I might start using it. And yeah, your aunt brought all of this onto herself. And if you're gonna betray your family over money, like yeah, don't be surprised when they don't want to talk to you again. I wasn't gonna read any more posts for today, but I feel like we should read one more. Karen in a prayer group. What should I do? I just joined a new church and I've been there for some weeks. I joined a prayer group which meets 2 times a week and is very small, like 5 of us, hosted by volunteers. This is a non-denominational church. There's this Karen type of lady who I'm noticing keeps one-upping me and throws subs. Today we had to do prayer requests and my request was to pray for my friend whose mum recently passed. Also, my prayer report was that I was happy to see my niece graduate from high school and that I hope that everybody has had a happy Memorial Day weekend. After it was my turn, she yawns obnoxiously loud and then proceeds to contradict everything that I'd said. She says it's not a happy Memorial Day, where it's only about mourning and that I should understand that there are students that didn't graduate. I understand and I'm empathetic about what she said, but she's constantly contradicting everything that I say and trying to get a rise out of me and to argue. And in a prayer group setting, how would you interact with a person like this? The best thing you can do, OP, is not interact with them. Update, I've reached out to the leader and she's helping. If the lady is on the prayer call later this week, I'll reach out again, as I messaged her before, to have a conversation and the leader will stay on the call. The leader said it could have been a misunderstanding and that the Karen might have been tired. I still think it's very ironic how the Karen lady kept on unraveling everything that I said. Also, she could have kept herself on mute while yawning or said, "Excuse me for yawning," if it wasn't intentional. So it's giving that it was intentional. So we'll see. Yeah, 100% the top comment. I would not interact. If anything, I'd say bless your heart and move on. Yeah, 100% OP. If they're trying to get a rise out of you, don't give it to them. Or also, another option like this comment says, call her out in public. If she yawns, ask her if she's tired. And is my personal prayer request upsetting you? Each little quip, ask her to repeat it. Louder, ask her to clarify her statements so you can understand better. Shining a light on somebody being a sparky little crap is the fastest way to get them to shut up. Yeah, that's also a good option, OP. Either way, good luck. They sound so annoying. And I feel like it's about time we read something wholesome. That was such a fun episode. 6-year-old me telling my dog that if he speaks to me, I'll keep it a secret. My dog. Wow, that's so funny. I've done that to the cats before. Not recently, like when I was younger. Like, I know you can speak English, okay? If you want to talk to me, I won't tell anybody, but it never works. Garage sale, follow me. I would follow him to the end of the earth. I'd follow him to the garage sale. Same thing. That's so cute. A little marketing genius. I heard a cardboard noise and I turned around to find this. Fashion. Oh yeah, look at that. How beautiful. Such a cute fluffy cat too. A cute fluffy cat that has monster packaging. Beautiful. A work of art. A local dog follows a Google Map snapper and ends up appearing in thousands of photos. Oh, that's so cute. And they look so happy too. Like, where are we going? Are we going to the garage sale? Adorable little dog. Okay, thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful time. And if you did, make sure you let me know down below and make sure you like and subscribe. And the comment of the day today goes to Mailer Shepherd. Hello, Vincey fam. I wanted to make you all aware that after 5 years since I was supposed to graduate high school, I've finally taken and passed my GED test. This is such a big accomplishment for me as I'm a huge procrastinator and I thought maybe I'd never get it. I'm hoping to get into veterinary school in the future. I hope you all have a wonderful day and make strides towards your long-standing goals. Edit, thank you guys. I love sharing good news with this community. Probably the best community on the internet. Oh, well, congrats. That's so awesome. Good on you for doing that. And yeah, thank you for sharing that in the comment section. That's so awesome. And that must have felt so good to do that. Hell yeah. Congratulations again. And yeah, we do have a beautiful community. And yeah, thank you for being awesome, guys. And thank you for the support. And I'll see you tomorrow. Make sure you look after yourself and make sure you have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. And you know what I'm about to say because I say it every single day. Bye.